Happy Friday, friends and neighbors. I haven't been on video, haven't made a little video in a long time. I'm in the last stages of finalizing my upcoming book released on June 13th. It is the second book in my series called the Down to Earth Spirituality series. Because as long as I've ever done this work, I've really wanted to make sure that this work, spirit, all of it, is down to earth, because in the New Age field and a lot of this stuff, it can feel inaccessible. It can feel like, you have to ascend or be enlightened. And I reject all of that. I think we can all have a very down to earth, simple, nourishing relationship with spirit. And that is the point of my book series. So volume 1 is out. Thank you everybody who's ever bought that. Volume 2 is coming out, and that is the book that's about increasing your own intuitive gifts, your own connections to spirit. Now, right now, I'm at my little place that I'm staying in Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. Now, last night I was in Kittery, Maine. Tonight I am in Newburyport, Massachusetts. I want to tell you a story about what happened last night. And before I tell you the story, I want to let you know that I wasn't raised religiously. I wasn't in a household that had church. I didn't have any of that upbringing. So bear with me as I tell you what happened last night. So when I host an event, if you've ever been to one, you're going to know this, but I want to tell you what happens if you've never been, or if you might not ever have the chance. So when I get out in front of a crowd of people, I introduce myself. I thank everybody for being there. I ask everybody to lower their expectations. I ask everybody to bring a sense of humor. And I get into a little bit of an introduction about myself and how everybody has these gifts and connection to spirit, how to tap into our own. So there's a little introduction. Then I have what I call the opener. The opener comes to me a day or so before the event, and this is a spirit that stays with me. And this is what I had to do. I'm in front of 120 people last night. And I go, okay, I have this man here, and he's talking to me about being really excited about smokestacks. This was weird. Like he showed me smokestacks, and the higher the smoke got, the bigger the smoke got, the more excited he got in life. So I was like, okay, I could feel him driving to smoke, and the smoke, like from a smokestack, I thought this was a mill or something. And the bigger the smoke got, the more excited he got. So I'm like, was he excited about going home? Did he see smokestacks? They got him excited. And then he showed me this image of being picked up by 4 people, not 1, not 2. And he was talking to me about like how light and paper thin he felt. It was a very weird sensation, but I described this to everybody that's there. And a woman says, this sounds like my husband, who was a firefighter. Okay. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Why? And this is where it didn't it didn't compute in my brain. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you what goes on here. So I see a smokestack, I see smoke, and the bigger it gets, the more excited this guy gets. And I'm like, why would a firefighter get excited about fire? Don't they put it out? Don't they put fires out? Why would he get excited? Well, she goes, weirdly, they do. And I have no exposure, like I have no connection to firefighters. I've never been in the culture. I've never been part of a family. So I don't know. I can't even think of a single firefighter that I know. And she was explaining to me, and there were other people in the audience who were like, no, firefighters get really excited about fire because they get excited about like the game of going and putting it out. Okay. And he was a man that got paralyzed, and then he passed away. So the idea of picking, like he had wasted away and he was paper thin. He showed me this. And he gets like picked up by 4 people because he was paralyzed. And he wasn't cruel, but he wasn't very affectionate. He was telling me how indifferent he was. Like he didn't really pay attention to it, but he wanted to thank his family for taking care of him and that he was there. And then it got really, really funny. He started to like laugh about houseplants with her. And I was like, why is he laughing to me about houseplants? And oh my God, like this is where the humor comes into these events. So I'm talking to this woman in front of this audience, and I go, oh, he's laughing to me about houseplants. And she's like, he bought me a houseplant every year for Mother's Day and I could never keep it alive. And then I said to her, I go, from him? And he goes, well, you couldn't keep a houseplant alive. How could you keep me alive? And I was like, this guy has some dark humor. And we were laughing and we were having fun. And I was talking to her about him, you know, and all of that. And we were having fun and that humor was coming through. But that goes to show us that humor is something that helps us heal. And he was giving that to her from there. So that's why I tell people, bring a sense of humor, because laughter and humor can be very, very healing. Okay. Then something happened to me in Kittery last night that had never happened to me in a live event before. Ever, ever, ever. Had never happened to me in a live event. And this is where I want to talk to you about if you go to an event like this. Because here's something that I want to tell people. There are some pretty big name psychics out there that go and fill up stadiums. I don't want to be that person. I like the idea of, you know, hanging out in the bar, hanging out in the small venues, talking to people, doing book signings after. I really have, you know, like if I were to ever fill stadiums, I think it would have to be the perfect scenario where I could speak to my experiences authentically. Okay. There are some big name psychics out there who I feel fill up their audience with actors. And I've been compared to these people before. People who have had one-on-one sessions with me go, you know, I paid $600 for an hour session with this person and you blew him out of the water. Like, okay. My point is that I oftentimes get compared to people who I think are frauds and who actually have actors in the audience who sign NDAs who, well, we're going to tell this story. We're going to tell this story. And, you know, be that as it may, again, something happened to me last night that illustrates why it's so important to speak up when you show up. If you go to an event with a psychic medium and you're sitting in the audience and a spirit comes through for you, claim it, raise your hand if that's part of the process, because the worst thing that can happen for me is for me to get a message from a spirit, for a spirit to come through and nobody speak, nobody claim it. And that's what happened to me last night. Now I'm going to explain to you why this is such a big deal for me and the big deal that happened to me last night. This had never happened to me before. So usually after the opener comes in, I give the woman her book and like I gift her a book and, you know, all of that. Then after that, I get into the gifts. Now, if you've never been to a live event, the way my gifts from spirit events work is that a couple of weeks prior to my event, I go for a drive and I just ask the angel that helps me, hey, give me the gifts that I need for Kittery. Give me the gifts that I need for Newburyport. I'm going to illustrate to you how that works, but I want to talk to you about what happened between the gifts and my opener. And this has never happened to me before. I'm in front of the audience and I get drawn up to the very far left corner. As I'm looking at the audience, far left corner, and there's a single woman sitting up there. And I said to her, I'm like, ma'am, this has never happened to me before, but you had Jesus with you. Like the Jesus. And how do I interpret his energy? Because I'm not a Christian, not a Catholic, but Jesus has come through to me in certain experiences where he feels like a saint. Now, I've experienced saint energy before. We have regular old human dead energy, and we're doing the best we can. But there are some spirits, some humans who have, through the course of their lives, sort of evolved or grown in power. And in the New Agey world, we can call them like ascended masters. And that's Jesus's energy for me. Jesus's energy is, one, was a human. Two, just wants to teach us to love ourselves, love each other. And I really get the impression that he does not dig on what people have turned him into. This idea that he's like being worshipped and all that. Now, the woman that I was drawn to goes, I don't pray to Jesus. I'm like standing there going, I'm feeling him. And I'm like, okay, well, if it's not you, then it might be the two women in front of you, but I'm being drawn to the corner and Jesus is up in that corner. There's a woman there who's had a t-shirt that said choose love. I wasn't really feeling her. I was feeling the woman behind her. But she goes, well, my husband prays to Jesus for me, you know, and all of that. I'm like, well, that must be what I'm picking up on, because the woman behind her didn't want to own it. Well, come to the end of the night. And if you're this woman, well, I love you for this, okay? She was by herself, and I don't think that she wanted to be called out in front of a big crowd. Okay, I completely get that. But she comes up to me and she goes, I don't pray to Jesus, I talk to Jesus. And I'm like, Don't you know that's the same thing? And she's like, no, 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 no. It's not religious Jesus. It's desert Jesus. That's what I was talking to the crowd about. Because I was like, well, there was a guy. He existed a couple thousand years ago. He's all about love and he wants us to love. But like, you know, it's not the big godlike energy that we get spoon fed sometimes. And she's like, I'm not about that. You know, I'm not about like that. She's like, I'm about, you know, the desert. And I'm like, that's literally who's with you. And I'm like, I'm telling you that you have Jesus with you, and you tell me that you're not praying to him, but now we get caught up in semantics because, as far as I know, being that I wasn't raised in church, talking with our minds to that spirit is like praying to that person or that spirit. She's coming from a place where, you know, she grew up with like praying, you know, on your knees, by your bedside, focused, hands together, and she's not doing that, but she is doing that. She is praying to that spirit. So my point is one, that spirit's out there. I felt him with a bunch of people before. I didn't get the information as to where that woman was in her life, what she was doing, but he was with her, and she confirmed that for me at the end of the event. My point is, one, again, he's around. You can talk to him. Now, the other thing is, when you show up to an event like this, and somebody like me is like, hey, we got somebody here, own it a little bit, even if it's uncomfortable in front of the crowd, because as uncomfortable as public speaking is, it's not really about that. It's about sharing as a group what we are coming together to experience. There's a lot of healing there. Now, over the course of the night, I get into the gifts, and the one that stood out to me was this. I'm going through the gifts, and I'm giving away the gifts, and I finally just yell out to the audience, Canadian fur trapper. Because as I was going through my gifts and I was getting them, I kept seeing a man with a fur hat, and he kept showing me like standing there with the musket. Salt Pork came through, and Jeremiah Johnson, the old movie with Robert Redford, came through. I couldn't get salt pork for this woman, so I got pork rinds, bag of pork rinds that represented the salt pork. I could not find a figurine of a man with a fur hat and a musket. So I had to buy this like old Western toy set that had a cowgirl standing there with like the musket. Okay. And then I had ordered a DVD copy of Jeremiah Johnson, and it didn't get there in time. So I had to get the woman's address, and it'll be like, I'll send it to you when it comes in to me. Well, she's in the audience. She's not speaking up, but her friend is. Her friend's like, over here, over here. And so I eventually get this woman, whose name was Kim, to speak up. And she goes, that's my dad. She goes, I have pictures of him with this hat. He had all sorts of guns. He was into black powder. Mom made salt pork with beans all the time, and I have his signed copy of Jeremiah Johnson's book. And I'm like, okay, that's how this works. And she was very hesitant to have this connection. And I had to talk to her. I was like, listen, for whatever reason, the angel that helps me wanted to bring this connection to you. Her reading, once I got connected to her and her dad, her reading was very much like, you're being taken for granted. Nobody appreciates you. You have a thankless job. So this woman in her life was doing everything she could to be as best as she could. You know, look as good as she can, be as present and healthy as she can, show up for people as she can. And nobody in her life was appreciating her. Nobody in her life was appreciating her. Dad was watching her, doing everything she could to be everything she could be. Nobody's appreciating her. And he wanted to come through and say, I see you. I see the integrity. I see the honor. I see the devotion. And I also see you, nobody appreciating you. You're being taken for granted. And he even said to her, he goes, like, you're the case of nobody's going to know what they have until it's gone. You know, whether you leave a relationship or a job or you move on to death, the people that you have in your life right now won't appreciate you until you're not in it. And that was huge for her. She comes up at the end of the night when I'm signing books, and she shows me the picture of her dad wearing the fur trapper hat. And she gives me her address so I can send her the Jeremiah Johnson DVD. Just thank you, anybody, for coming to my events, sharing in this experience, as weird and as strange as it can be. It's always about healing and love and humor. And I want to thank everybody that was in Kittery last night. I want to thank the woman who talks to Jesus. I want to thank the woman who is being taken for granted. I want to thank everybody who was there getting gifts. Such an incredibly touching thing to go through. There was even more God talk last night where I had to give away Noah's Ark bath set because this woman was like, I got a grandkid here, like not in spirit, but there's a scenario where a woman is taking care of her grandchild because there was a tragedy in the family, and the grandchild's in the bathtub and they're talking about God. You know, when a little kid loses their father to suicide, it's hard to explain why and how that happened. So I know a lot of us, whether we believe in God or Christianity or any of that, we kind of lean into like, well, God had a plan. God took this person to heaven for whatever reason. And the message that kept coming through around this was like, listen, keep the conversation about God love-based. Because there's a lot of people who use the idea of God to hurt and to hate. And that was the big message last night was God is love. Love is God. Love doesn't hate. And so keep the conversation simple and keep it all about love. Don't keep it about like Old Testament, can't eat shrimp on Fridays or whatever the hell it is. Like, keep it simple and keep it love-based. And that's how you're going to succeed in that story. Anyways, thank you for being in Kittery. Thank you for coming to Newburyport tonight. Thank you for being here. And when you go to an event like this, make sure you speak up because you never know who could show up, even like Jesus. So all my love to you. Remember that you can find me in my podcast, my events, my books, my upcoming book on my website at joshsimons.com.